So we did read in full the paper that was sent home by the school with the description of the book. The synopsis, in my opinion, was poorly and very inaccurately written. It said, and I'm quoting, the book is heartbreaking, funny, and beautifully written. It did also mention, as you noted, that it did have, and I quote again, some sensitive content, including alcoholism, poverty, bullying, and sexuality. But if you had quoted even one of the following quotes that Jacob just referenced, I can't imagine that there's a parent who would have approved the consideration of that book, specifically for the age group intended. Our daughter came home upset over the passage that was the first one, stating that it was inappropriate for students. So we decided to read the book in its entirety over that weekend.
And the last update I had, I think, is kind of a popular one tonight for most people here. But so we have this book. It's called The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. The book is used in our freshman language arts class.
I'm putting Dave on speaker.
Oh, gotcha. Should he not be able to get on?
I can hear you. I'm gonna mute you though, so just mute me. Other board member.
So we've had 2 verbal complaints in the last 2 years regarding the use of this book. The book has been used as part of the language arts freshman curriculum for the past 8 years. 8 years at North Douglas High School. The book does contain language, sexual references, and some racial references. No formal challenge has been filed regarding this book at this time. Policy IIA-AR2 clearly defines how the district must handle these situations. Although we do not have a formal challenge, we are going to take the following steps. After the complaint we had last year, we thought we needed to and were obligated to do a better job of informing families of exactly what's being read in our schools. So at the start of this year, we sent out a reading list with a summary of the books being used. Had some conversation previous to that. Then that first sending home didn't quite go as planned because I thought that should have a signature line to come back. It did not, so we had that resent out with the signature line. So parents had to sign.
That's not by,
So that was sent twice this year.
by mail or by the students?
No, by students.
Okay.
To parents. So it's my understanding we had those come back and there are 2 families that wrote comments on those, that they thought the book was inappropriate, which is fair. It is a controversial book nationally. It's also a highly acclaimed book. Many districts still use the book. Many have removed the book. For example, Oakland School District went through a challenge last year on this book. They elected to retain using the book on a 9-0 vote. You can find districts that have banned the book. You can find multiple districts that still use the book. I think my biggest issue with books in general is that if this were a movie, we have very clear policy on how it's to be on. If it's a PG or PG-13, it has to have parental consent. It's only movies that can be shown in a school district are G, and they still need to be notified. So to summarize this, at this point, there has been no formal book challenge filed. We do have those right here, if someone would like to go down that road. Summaries of the books and all the other books being used in our language arts classes have been sent home. Parental permission has been sent home. And as of tonight, our school board has been provided a copy of this book. Ainsley and I have been communicating a ton over this exact issue. Her emails have been shared with the board. I think she was very professional in going about this, did a great job, and I think we worked together pretty well and created a pretty decent resolution. Now, if someone would like to file a formal complaint, we'll go right down this route and walk through the steps of policy. But to this point, that has not been done.
Yep, I'll grab one of those.
Okay.
We'll figure it out afterwards.
Yes.
And then, are you gonna take, I'm sorry, this is my first time, are you gonna take like public comment at the end regarding it, or, you know, I think it just might be beneficial for, I know that there are a lot of people present wondering like, hey, I made the first post, right? I mean, everybody knows that. Why did I make this post? Why is there concern? Where is my concern coming from? And I think it's important to know because I was pretty clear with those reasons and concerns. Just for other people who maybe haven't had the opportunity to read it in a 24-hour period like I did, to know some of those facts and just to be well informed. I think as a community, this is not meant to divide, right? It is just so that we all have the information, we all go into with open eyes, and then we all have the information and can make our individual assessments and opinions about it. And really that's what this is about, because as a community, we need to make these decisions. We all have the best interest of all of the kids in our community. This isn't about my child or your child. So I'm just curious about, you know, if we wait and do that kind of at the end or.
So generally public comments done at the beginning. I think, to be honest, what's most appropriate with this situation, because this process has not been started at all, that if you were to fill out a complaint, I would love to get as much written feedback, and I would even take names to place you on the recommendation committee that you can review and recommend to me, which I recommend to the board on this exact.
I have another book I'd like to add to your list. Slaughterhouse 5.
Yeah,
That is being required to grade in junior year.
okay, fair enough. So that, I think we should do those on two separate things.
Okay.
Is that fair? So Ainsley, I would love, I mean, I think it's appropriate for you to give exactly what you've talked about already. I think,
I mean, I'm ready to just give like a little, I mean, I came prepared tonight to kind of give my little like 2-minute presentation, 3-minute presentation. I tried it. In 31 seconds, so if that's okay. You know, I came and just prepared with that, and you know, Jacob wanted to read quotes, just so that we, you know, can just be really transparent on why we're doing this, and you know, again, so that we can go into this with open, everybody has open eyes and just know really our intent in it and why we're doing this, why we view it as so important.
I think that's good.
Is it an appropriate time now to do that? Or- Okay.
We're probably gonna, yeah, we'll do it first.
Okay, so do you want, so Jacob is just gonna read a couple of quotes that we provided these to all of the board members, so everybody was aware. There were 6 specific quotes that we provided. He's just gonna highlight 3 of them who we found to be the most impactful, I would say.
I'll say two. You know, when she came home, I saw the one passage that I found kind of shocking, but I don't want to pass judgment on the book. Neither did she, without actually knowing what was in it. So we both read the book. I read through the book, have a good picture of what the book's about. I don't think the whole book is trash, not at the extremes, it's all terrible. There's some good material in there, but there are a number of passages that I think are not appropriate to be discussed in school or really outside of the home setting. So there's a couple passages. Now, I'm not kind of explicit, and it's not very comfortable reading them. So, but this is what our kids are reading in school somewhere. There's a couple of passages. First one. I spent hours in the bathroom with a magazine that has 1,000 pictures of naked movie stars. Naked women plus right hand equals happy, happy, joy, joy. Yep, that's right. I admit that I masturbate. I'm proud of it. I'm good at it. I'm ambidextrous. If there were a professional masturbators league, I'd get drafted #1 and make millions of dollars. And maybe you're thinking, well, we really should be talking about masturbation in public. Well, tough. I'm going to talk about it because everybody does it and everybody likes it. And God hadn't wanted us to masturbate, then God wouldn't have given us thumbs. So I thank God for my thumbs. The second passage, much shorter, and honestly, it's probably the most disturbing one, but I'm going to read it exactly as it appears in here. Hey, Chief, Roger said, you want to hear a joke? Sure. I said, do you know, or did you know that Indians are living proof that niggers fuck volleyball? So that is the book. And then the third one, and there's more, but not time for it. A few days after I gave Penelope a homemade Valentine, my dad's best friend Eugene was shot in the face in the parking lot of a 7-Eleven in Spokane. Way drunk. Eugene was shot and killed by one of his good friends, Bobby, who was too drunk to even remember pulling the trigger. The police think Eugene and Bobby fought over a glass of drink and a bottle of wine. When Bobby was sober enough to realize that what he'd done, he could only call Eugene's name over as if it would somehow bring him back. 2 weeks later, in jail, Bobby hung himself with a bed sheet. He didn't even have enough time to forgive him. He punished himself for his sins. My father went on a legendary drinking binge. My mother went to church every single day. It was all booze and God, booze and God, booze and God. We lost my grandmother and Eugene. How much loss are we supposed to endure until helpless and stupid? So those are 3, and there are more, but those are 3 passages that, and parents want to read the book at home with their children and discuss it in the family setting, that's fine. But especially the first 2, the one about masturbation and the one with the N-word, I think in any other setting, if an adult were to come to a minor and discuss this sort of subject matter with them, we would all agree it's inappropriate. And hold it's inappropriate in school setting as well.
Thank you.
All right, so trauma-informed care, we all know, is hugely important today. In schools, it's described as an approach that creates safe and nurturing environments, helps students manage their emotions, and build supportive and trusting relationships. It can be implemented through systemic changes to policies, practices, and procedures, such as minimizing trauma reminders. That's why we're here, right? That's why we're talking about this. Weeks ago in this class, we began reading this book. I will note we did read in full the paper that was sent home by the school with the description of the book. The synopsis, in my opinion, was poorly and very inaccurately written. It said, and I'm quoting, the book is heartbreaking, funny, and beautifully written. It did also mention, as you noted, that it did have, and I quote again, some sensitive content, including alcoholism, poverty, bullying, and sexuality. But if you had quoted even one of the following quotes that Jacob just referenced, I can't imagine there's a parent who would have approved the consideration of that book, specifically for the age group intended. Our daughter came home upset over the passage that was the first one, stating that it was inappropriate for students. So we decided to read the book in its entirety over that weekend. We had our child read it along with us to have an open dialogue about the content. Prior to this year, we homeschooled for nearly 6 years and chose to expose our children to a variety of forms of art and literature. I will admit that as an adult, I did find it to be quite enjoyable in some areas to read about topics that author considered, including cultural inequities that are often hard to verbalize as adults. But there were many areas that we bookmarked, some we just read about, that we found to be quite upsetting and even brought me to tears at times. It contained topics that were nothing short and inappropriate for children to consider, again, in any setting. This book is specifically one we were all looking forward to reading due to the fact that 2 of our children are actually adopted from the very area in Washington the author is from and are also of Native American ancestry. You see, we live in a household that must be trauma informed. Due to our children's pasts, and we would expect the same within our local school setting. This book is not trauma informed. Aside from containing explicit language, some of the topics considered, and in many cases, promote such things as masturbation, alcoholism, bullying, sexuality, suicide, bulimia, and violence. Many schools within the state, as was noted, have already chosen to ban this book. And while I personally do not find this alone to be a reason in itself to eliminate literature from a curriculum, it should be a reason for all of us to sit down and consider why others have done so. Without proper warning to families in our communities that topics such as these will be discussed, inadvertently kids could be being exposed to trauma triggers rather than school being a place that is actually what it should be, which is a safe place for learning. Some of the quotes were just considered that we found to be inappropriate and offensive, along with page numbers I printed out for reference if you choose to look at them yourself. Again, we want to thank all of you for your time and consideration and just hearing us out. Again, we take it seriously, not just because we're trying to cause division within the community, but because we do value education so highly, but in all forms, not just education, but mentally and emotionally as well as a whole person. Again, we strongly encourage all of you to read the book. We did it in a 24-hour period and review all of its content before you allow it to be considered in further years. Cultural inequities can continue to be considered in many other ways and in many other pieces of literature besides this one. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, you did right on the
Well
three.
said.
Appreciate it. Thank you. So is there anyone else that wanted to?
I prepared a little thing of gathering some thoughts from some of the experience we had last year, with the same book.
And your name, please?
My name is Deanna Jench, and we have 4 boys. 3 of them graduated from here. The other one we ended up pulling last year because of this incident. So as parents of 4 boys that have gone through this school district, we have been involved in several aspects of this school. From subbing and working in elementary to helping and volunteering in sports and other school events. For a long time, we were proud of our small town school because it was different in a good way. The teachers and staff truly cared about the students. But for the last few years, we found more and more the leaders not willing to do their job. Part of leadership is having the backbone to follow through and enforce the rules that are established. This book was the main topic of discussion at our house last year and was the final straw in our decision to pull our son. We had a meeting, brought up all the inappropriate content as well, safe quotes and more. I have a whole list of them. We met with Scott Yankovic, Jody Sear, and Vicki Freytag. As far as I understood, that was a formal complaint. I was never offered a formal complaint. We emphasized how it was not appropriate content for our son or anyone else's kids due to the language, subject matter, and sexual content. Even though during the meeting, Jody agreed with us that it was inappropriate for school setting, they decided to pull our student from the class, put him in a room by himself for 4 or 5 weeks, however long they were doing the book. Jesse sat in the classroom with no teacher, no other students, ostracized by himself. This made our son feel secluded and ostracized for speaking up for what was right. There's enough negativity and explicit content out there for kids to find on their own with the internet and everything else. Our kids should not have to be required to read material that makes them feel uncomfortable. And our son and several of his friends, the very first day they got the book, found all the bad stuff. Did they read the full book to get the point of the story? Most likely, most of them did not. 2 of my other sons also did not read the full story. They the moral of the story at the ending. But in the meantime, we're going through all of these things, all of these emotions, all of this uncomfortable material. School should be a safe place where kids can learn reading, writing, and arithmetic. We left this district disappointed in our leaders. We expected more, we expected better, and our kids deserve better. Someone has to have the backbone to stick up for what is right. If we don't, they will continue to be sexualized and traumatized by others, whether it be teachers or other students. I, for one, will not stand by silently and watch our children be abused. And I challenge the school board, the superintendent, and the principal, and the staff to keep the garbage out of the schools, be the adult, make the hard decisions that will keep our kids safe and be able to learn in a safe environment. If you don't, you're going to continue to lose good families. Choose literature that has a positive message to uplift our kids. Do better and be better, because we as parents expect more.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this matter or not?
Yeah, just have a comment.
Thank you, please.
Great one. With these passages and stuff they read, I agree with most of what they said as well. There should be a requirement to read things that students wouldn't be allowed to say to each other in class. If you're calling a kid the N-word or saying that they do something on their own free time, exploiting it to other kids and saying that they enjoy it, I guarantee you, well, they should be reprimanded as a student in the school if you want. But if we're being required to read that, why wouldn't that open up a passage to them to feel like they're free to say that during school? And if that's okay, then I would have a serious problem with that. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else?
Good
Is
point.
there anybody in Zoomtown, I guess to call it that would like to make a comment regarding this subject?
Yeah,
Your name, please?
Cheryl Lougheed.
Okay. Let's see.
I have a grandson in the grade school that had a book in Natalie Drager's class that had content. And when you guys aren't psychologists or anything like that, or the teachers, to understand that some of these minds that these kids have, my daughter and Aaron have to deal with a lot with Lakota. And he was able to bring home this book. And the first thing that attracted to him, because his grandpa asked him, why did you want this book? Well, because it has a gun in it. And it's talking about committing suicide in the grade school. When we teach our kids proper gun on how to hunt, how to secure our guns, and this is allowed for you to contradict everything that we are trying to teach. That's my grandson, and you have no idea the mind that he has. And with books like that, he's going to end up doing something stupid because he thinks it's cool because it's in the school.
Cheryl, can you tell us the title of that book?
I'll have to, my sister has the title. She has to read it to you because I am on my phone and it's on my pictures.
Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Yes, it's.
Was the picture one?
There is kids out there that do come from, I mean, my daughter and my son-in-law had to pull him from a serious situation and try everything to keep him in a normal, stable. Nobody knows this. They just think, oh, he's just ADHD. No, no biggie. No, it is a big deal. We're with him 24/7. You're not. And this is very critical, especially when he's around two other siblings that are younger than him. No, not acceptable. Not in this small of a community.
Thank you.
Yep.
Is there any other stuff, any other persons that like to speak regarding this, the book that we were discussing earlier? If not, then we will move on.
I'm gonna give you these two right now. I'm gonna give you three.
I think 3 is what I need because I think there's another book about murder that is Lakota has been subject to.
So while this is being discussed, apparently it's a long process. So are.
It's actually not a long process.
So are the kids this year being exposed to this book and
They
required to
are
read
reading.
it? And what are you doing with the ones that are not allowed to read it? Are they stuck in a room by themselves?
No, and that's the first I've heard of that actually, Dan, is that you were stuck in a room over there. When I sat in a meeting with you and your husband last year, he was going to be given an alternative assignment. That's the last I heard of that, and then you guys transferred to this, yeah, please.
Yeah, because he was put in a room, said, go to the library and pick your own book.
Well,
And then,
the library is also a place where we have a study hall. That's where any kid that takes an additional class comes to
Yeah,
take it. So there's
library,
always,
to the room, sit through it, like, so it's no teacher.
he wasn't in the library.
No, he was alone. Or with us.
So I would like to know if the requirements are gonna have to stop or if they're just still gonna be required to read these certain books.
Well, so this is the process that will happen from here on out. You'll file a complaint. You'll give that complaint to me. I have 10 days to appoint a review committee. Okay, the review committee has 10 student contact days to give me a recommendation in which I give to the board that they address at the following board meeting. The board has the choice to uphold the review committee's decision, or they can change the review committee's decision. But if they change it, they have to give in writing to the review committee and to the person filing the complaint the reasons they changed.
Are these committee members all teachers
Would you like
or
to be on it?
citizens?
Nope, it's teacher, it's a variety.
I'm into it.
Yeah, I would. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate everybody's comments.